Well, hello everyone. This is Rachel Carl, and welcome to the Green Body and Mind 6-week Reclaim Your Life, How to Get Off and Stay Off Illegal and Legal Drugs and Alcohol teleclass series. We are so thrilled that you have joined us, and this is a very special series, one that we haven't ever done before. And because of Ms. Petrelli's schedule, we may not ever do this again. So you're very fortunate that you've made the decision to join us. And you are just going to be blown away by what she has to share with you. This is the information that she shares only with her outpatient and inpatient program clients, not with anyone else. This is going to be 12 modules twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays, unless you're listening to the recording at home on CD or your MP3 player, and in which case you can take your time or blast through these as quickly as you'd like. So what we're going to be covering tonight is Module 1. Ms. Petrelli will be sharing with you the overview of green mental health care, the advantages of non-toxic, non-invasive, and non-addictive mental health care over psychiatric drugs and self-medication with food, illegal drugs, and alcohol. She's also going to share how you can achieve excellent mental health beyond your wildest expectations. And she's going to talk about 3 government-funded studies evaluating the performance of 3 government-funded alternative clinics providing green mental health treatment that report far better patient outcomes at a fraction of the cost compared to conventional treatment. So that's Module 1. That's what we're going to cover tonight. And you will walk away after each one of these teleclasses with an exact strategy for lifelong success. Each class is going to build on the last one. You're going to be learning also later on in the series how to manage your doctor for the best services they can offer. You're going to learn what the first thing is that you should do if you're suffering from anxiety, depression, mental and physical fatigue. And after you've learned all the much-needed details of staying sane in a toxic world, we're going to give you step-by-step guidance in gracefully tapering yourself off of drugs. And the key to avoiding painful and frightening withdrawal symptoms is to first build a healthy body to drop into. So you're going to learn all about that as we go through this series. You're also going to learn the real reason you're gaining weight. Drugs and food chemicals are endocrine disruptors that cause weight gain, and you're going to learn about that and how to avoid those endocrine disruptors. You're also going to learn how you can save tens of thousands of dollars while providing yourself even better treatment than most costly rehabs could provide you. Now, Genita knows this because her outpatient practice has done for former patients that were in rehab what they could not accomplish at the facility. Also, you're going to have a chance to get your questions answered each week. If you're listening from your computer, you'll see that little box on the left-hand side of your screen that says, submit your question for the event here. So go ahead and submit your questions there right now. And Genita will try to get to each question at the end of every call. Now, if you're listening to the CDs at home, you can just email us your questions at any time at findpeace@shangrillabioSpa.com. Okay, so moving right along, you might want to grab your water, a pen, some paper, so you can jot down the key things Genita's going to cover. Make sure you're in a comfortable place where you won't be disturbed, so you can really be present for everything she has to say. Now, before I introduce our honored guest, I want you to imagine something. Imagine that you have all the knowledge you need to know about why you're addicted to drugs or alcohol. Imagine you know exactly how to find out the root cause at a cellular level as to why you turn to them in the first place and why you feel the symptoms that you feel. Now imagine that it's 6 or 8 weeks later and you have taken charge of your health and your life once and for all. You've lost weight. Your skin has cleared up. You feel great every single morning when you wake up. You have 0 cravings. Your life is better in so many ways, from your personal relationships to your job, your finances, your mindset. Everything has improved as a result. You're vibrant, healthy, and have just added more years to your life and more years where your loved ones can spend happy moments with you in full love and joy. Imagine how that feels. Our guest of honor has worked with thousands of people to help them feel well for life. She's going to be with us for the next 6 weeks. She's a Human Rights Award winner, a nutritional biochemist, and licensed healthcare practitioner. She's an author and the medical director of the Biosanctuary Addiction Recovery and Green Mental Health Care Center. And I'm talking about, of course, Genita M. Now, what she's going to talk to you about are real, immediate things you can do to change the way you feel, both mentally and physically, right away. She understands that not everyone can make it to her spa and healthcare center. So she's created programs just like the one you're listening to right now to make true green mental health care accessible to everyone. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our special guest, Genita M.
Hi, thank you, Rachel. Thank you very much for that excellent introduction. I love your introductions. You're very thorough and on target always. And I want to welcome all of you this evening. I have patients out there. I have fellow practitioners. I have people interested in considering the program. I have a lot of different people out there, also a lot of people in the industry that want to help even more and get this information. And I thank you all for being out there and listening to us this evening. And I want to tell you, right off the bat, I know exactly what it is. Just one second. I'm sorry. Okay. I know exactly what it is that you want right now. You're going to be thinking in the back of your mind, come on, I want the information now. I want step-by-step instructions. What exactly am I supposed to be doing to taper off of drugs? And I am going to give you all of that information, but it's not going to be at the front of these lectures, and there's a good reason for that. Because what I found is, in fact, one of the many reasons that I put this teleseminar together is that true health, people are so far away in their lifestyle practices that true health is such a dramatic lifestyle change on so many levels that when my outpatients start, there's just so much to do to really do it right for long-term success, and that's what we want here. Nobody wants to drop $1,000. Nobody wants to drop $5,000. Nobody wants to drop $20,000, $40,000, $60,000 on treatment to be standing at the door in the same very condition in 6 months. We're looking at long-term success. It's easy to detox a person. Everybody does it. Everybody thinks they know how to do it, and they don't even do it right. If you're feeding people pesticide-ridden food and you call your place a detox, it's not a detox. Those things actually do hurt your neurochemistry. They do damage your brain tissue and nervous system, and they do cause symptoms. So you're not even leaving the facility really truly detox, and then you drop right back into the toxic environment that created your symptoms. So as an orthomolecular practitioner and a purist at that, one of the very few out there, I am going to teach you on all levels how to green your body and green your mind, because it is only through that you are going to achieve long-term mental health as well as freedom from addiction, okay? So I hope that, but every single module is going to give you so much information, things to start doing right away to look at your environment, your food choices, create a new menu, all the things, everything from getting a green cleaners to take care of your clothes to, greening your home and the products that you put on your skin, because those are neurotoxic as well. Health is about, the total deal. You can't take any shortcuts today. There's just way too much toxicity in your food and your environment, and they are endocrine disruptors. They are neurotoxic, and they're excitotoxic. They are truly what is causing the epidemic mental health crisis of today, which does lead to addictive biochemistry, which leads to addiction. And I'll explain all of that in this seminar this evening. Again, I want to thank everybody for being here. I know that it is going to be life-changing for you. I am going to be downloading 18 hours of information representing 20 years of being in practice, helping people reclaim their lives. And you all are listening right now to the very information that they hear that helps them to reclaim their life and find the freedom from addiction and live a truly quality life. Okay? This is the first module. It is the Awakening the Physician Within module, and you do have one, and I'll explain what that is in a moment. So the series is Green Mental Health and Addiction Recovery, Staying Sane in a Toxic World. And just real quickly, these are the people, this is my crew here. These are my endorsers. This is Dr. Abram Hoffer, MD. Anybody who knows anything about good orthomolecular medicine knows of this man. He worked with Bill Wilson with the vitamin B3 trials and niacin trials with AA. He wrote the foreword to my book, actually, Alcoholism, the Cause and the Cure. Dr. Joan Larson Matthews is another endorser of mine, a colleague of mine. The woman braved many new trails in the addiction and recovery arena in orthomolecular medicine, and she's also a true purist. Dr. Joe Dispenza, a lot of you know him from What the Bleep Do We Know? Brilliant man who knows neurochemistry inside and out, and he's endorsed my programs and book. Dr. Andrew Saul, who is the editor of the Journal of Orthomolecular Medicine, which I am published in. And I know Dr. Linus Pauling, he passed away before I could think of asking him for an endorsement, but because he works so closely with Dr. Abram Hoffer, because Dr. Linus Pauling is truly my hero. He's a chemist that won 2 Nobel Prizes, one for peace, one for chemistry. And he worked very closely with Dr. Abram Hoffer, and I would like to think that since their medical values were so aligned that I would have had Dr. Linus Pauling's blessings and endorsement before he passed on. So those are my endorsers, and just a little bit about me. I mean, I think most of you know everything that there is to know on paper about me anyway, but for those that may not, a little bit of my credibility here may help with getting you over the hump and making the changes that I'm going to be asking you to make in your life to live the quality life that you're sitting on this seminar to achieve. I am a medical director of Shangril-La Environmental Health Institute and the Biosanctuary. It's an inpatient orthomolecular rehabilitation biosanctuary clinic that's an entirely non-toxic environment. The food, the cleaning, the therapies, everything, air ozonators, water fill, everything is non-toxic to the nth degree that we can possibly get it in today's toxic world and environment. I am the author of 4 books now: Alcoholism, the Cause and the Cure, Green Mental Health Care, Staying Sane in a Toxic World, Green Mental Health Care, How to Get Off and Stay Off Psychiatric Drugs, and Food for Humans, the Biosanctuary's Clinical Detoxification Recipe Book, which all of you should have a copy of. I am the recipient of the 2010 Human Rights Award for the Green Mental Health Care Medical Model that you're going to be learning about this evening. I am the founder and president of Green Body and Mind, a nonprofit that I established to educate the public about the causes of mental and physical health issues today and how to avoid and cure them naturally. I focus on the elderly, pregnant women, and children because, well, pregnant women are usually tax-paying people, but children and the elderly, if you're not paying taxes, you really get the raw, and I mean, allopathic medicine and public health care today is bad enough, but if you're not paying taxes and you're in either of these brackets, the truly vulnerable, you are getting the worst that they have out there. In fact, it's a scary thing to think of why they would be skyrocketing pharmaceutical sales and prescriptions, psychiatric prescriptions to the elderly when they hit 65. I'm very, very concerned about the intent behind that. And I do practice and created the Green Mental Health Care Medical Model, and that is a non-toxic, non-invasive, and non-addictive medical model. Our branding is we are aligned with nature and supported by science. Science should be only the witness to the solution, the witness to nature. It should not be used to try and control or manipulate it, which a lot of conventional medicine is attempting to do these days. And this is the first module of 12. It is Healing the Pharmacist Within, or Awakening the Pharmacist Within. And a little bit about, well, the code word for the Biosanctuary is the 5-star human car wash. We detox people on all levels because every single level, when you're in a healing crisis, which people are in, once you are symptomatic, you are now in a healing crisis. Once you're symptomatic, that means that there's some degree of damage that has occurred that is causing the symptoms, and you cannot cut any corners in what you need to do to truly heal and to stay healed, okay? So the Green Body and Mind Comprehensive Detoxification System, which you are going to learn everything about here, I have developed over 13 years of working with patients who suffer everything from paranoid schizophrenia and chronic anxiety to diabetes, hypoglycemia, and heart disease is not only a complete system that assists a thorough cleansing of today's invisible crazy makers, but helps you to identify where your exposures are coming from so that you can maintain the excellent health that a detoxification of this caliber delivers to you. If you are suffering, it is likely due to multiple chemical exposures that have accumulated over the years, which encourages food, alcohol, and drug addictions, because obviously they make you symptomatic. And it's natural to reach out for relief when you're symptomatic, especially when it's a chronic condition. I will show you where these invisible crazy makers are hiding and provide the steps to eliminate them from your body and mind, as well as how to convert the products they are hidden into green, non-toxic ones so that you can achieve the quality of life and that excellent health provides. At the end of this series, I will provide step-by-step instructions for detoxification and how to avoid withdrawal symptoms and naturally rebalance your brain chemistry and achieve green mental health. I know, like I said, at the top here, I know that everybody just wants me to get to the point, what do? I want step by step. But really, to do it right so that you're not overwhelmed. See, I've just noticed that my outpatients, we have to work very hard in the beginning at getting them all the information that they need and really helping them through the process, because there's just so much landing on them in the first week that they have to fix and change over and everything. It's not a way to do it. It's not the elegant way to do it, because obviously people that are symptomatic, when you stress them out, what's going to happen? They're going to be more symptomatic. So that's not a good way to approach the process of healing. So I'm going to give you all the background information in these series. We're going to go in detail and in a lot of depth about these subjects so that it really sticks, so you know exactly what to do. And then, yes, you are going to get step-by-step instructions, and I'll be as specific as I can. You do have 15 minutes at the end of each lecture to ask questions, and I will be as specific as I can possibly be while staying within the legal limits. I do have to, and I will, of course, work with anyone after this series with tests and targeted nutritional therapies if you choose to hire me, or you may, of course, you will have a PhD in green mental health and will know how to manage your doctor as well. And we actually have a module just on that. But you know, I will, you know, if you call on me, of course, I will offer my services. But you'll also be armed with plenty of information on how to manage your doctor right there at home, too, if that's the way you want to do it. So let's see, going to the next one. The most important thing that I need you to take away with you from this evening's call is that there is a physical cause for mental health symptoms, and you cannot separate the body from the brain. It's extremely important that you understand that, and I'll give you an example. Okay, for instance, I'll give you two examples, okay? When a woman is going through perimenopause and her hormones are playing ping-pong ball, and she's going all over the map, and she's emotional 1 minute and totally calm the next minute, and you know, going off on the next minute, you know, everyone's like, well, you know, she's in perimenopause. They see that her hormones are fluctuating all over. And everybody understands that it is from the sexual organs going out, you know, of the picture that she is suffering these mental health symptoms, okay? Well, then why is it when a child cannot focus and they're experiencing ADD and they're bouncing all over the place, hyperactive, hyper-emotional, hyper-reactive, why is it that they don't look at the neuroendocrine system in those situations to find the fix, which is where they do actually need to be looking, okay, and toxic exposures, which do the damage to the neuroendocrine system that causes the child to be presenting like that. So another common one that people know that when they're in adrenal fatigue and their adrenals are not producing enough cortisol, which is the stress buffer, the natural stress buffer hormone, when they're not producing enough cortisol, they will be overreactive to stress. They are easily overwhelmed. They're in a chronic state of stress usually. They're reactive. They can have hot tempers. They just can't handle much, and they overreact when they try. Well, everybody understands that. So why is it that when a person is hyper emotional 1 minute and fine the next when they've had a candy bar or something, that psychiatrists don't look for adrenal fatigue? Instead, you know, they call them bipolar. Because they're all over the map, and they give them psych drugs, which actually damage the brain and the body and put them on a very, very dark path until the very dark end. So I want you to understand that, and this is what, you know, a big focus of this series is about, is finding the underlying cause, identifying what caused the underlying cause, because, I'll take it one step further. You not only have to find the root cause, what's damaging your body, but you have to find what damaged it so you can also eliminate that. Otherwise, you'll, try and heal up the problem, and if you can get that far with the problem, what caused the problem still present, you're just going to get sick again in 6 months and think that your original therapy was no good when actually you had not eliminated the source of the root cause. So, again, there is always a physical cause for mental health symptoms, and you cannot separate the body from the brain. In fact, the brain relies entirely on the health of the neuroendocrine system. That is your adrenals, your thyroid, parathyroid, your sex hormones, your sexual glands. I think I said adrenals, but it's those, your pituitary, your hypothalamus. It's these glands that produce the neurochemicals that your brain needs in varying degrees, depending upon the person and the environment the person lives in, to provide peace, joy, calm, all those things that people call mental health. And if any of those organs are damaged in any capacity, they do affect the other organs, and they will cause mental health symptoms, okay? Let's see, what is the next slide? Okay. The causes of mental health symptoms and addictions. Deficient or imbalanced neurochemistry is caused by food chemicals, MSG, aspartame, but by the way, these are the big ones, the big names that most of you, I hope, know about. There are over 3,000 chemicals put in food today, the last I read anyway, and that was actually about 5 years ago, maybe 4. And in many of them, these big food manufacturers like Kellogg and Kraft, Sara Lee, they've gone to Congress and they have won the right not to put many of these chemicals on the label because they are considered by the FDA, GRAS, generally recognized as safe. Anything that's listed as generally recognized as safe, which would actually, you know what, I'm going to make a note. It would be interesting to get the link from the FDA for that listing, and also the toxic the toxic nature of the items that are listed there under GRAS. And so anyway, if it's listed GRAS, they do not have to put it on the label. So, and by the way, aspartame is not. Wait, let me back up here for a second. There are more. Last I read, there are more class action lawsuits on the FDA's desk right now on aspartame than any product that has ever been approved for human consumption. Why? Because masses of people are suffering aneurysms, brain tumors, all these things that have been proven to be associated with aspartame use and are very, very prevalent in those using it, as well as anxiety. I have many cases that come to me with anxiety. Now, by the way, if a person grows up drinking a lot of Diet Cokes and eating all these gums and things that have aspartame in it, and they suffer a lot of anxiety, what do you think is going to happen the first time they drink a beer or two? Okay, that beer is going to be a medicine to them. It's going to calm them down. It's going to make them feel chill, real good. And what do you got? You have addictive biochemistry right there presenting itself, and the person builds a different kind of relationship, not a recreational one, a medicinal relationship with the substance, okay? So, anyway, so food chemicals, these many food chemicals, and MSG, by the way, has 40 different names for it now, because they're trying to sneak it in. It's an excitotoxin and neurotoxin, which means it damages the brain and nervous system and the functions of the brain and nervous system. And so these, thousands of food chemicals are accumulating in people's bodies and levying their damage and causing a lot of symptoms, especially in children, because children do not have the detoxification mechanisms matured enough yet to really protect them from these very, very potent chemicals. So that's probably one of the top of the list. Then there's environmental exposures to endocrine disruptors, pesticides, excitotoxins, phthalates, dioxins, bisphenol A, heavy metals. There's so many. In fact, the Environmental Workers Group did a a study not too long ago, I think a year or two ago, and they randomly chose a bunch of, I forget how many, pregnant women throughout the country in various areas, and took 1 inch of their umbilical cord at birth to test them for environmental toxicity and exposure. Every single pregnant woman had an average of more than 300 toxic neurotoxins, excitotoxins, and carcinogens, endocrine disruptors, all of it, and over 300 of them at the time of birth. And by the way, you all know that pregnant women tend to be try to be the healthier. They tend to be the healthier population of our race because they're trying to take care of themselves for the baby. So this gives you an idea, and not one of these chemicals are supposed to be in a human body, and they all hurt and damage the brain and nervous tissue. So I hope you're getting an idea here of really what's causing the problem. I wonder, does anybody ever sit and think, especially my age, I'm 50 now, and does anybody ever start to think, when I was growing up 40 years ago, I never heard of anxiety. Nobody had ADD, ADHD, depression. I never heard of these things, and now they are epidemic. So now, has anybody, because I'm not saying that people are not symptomatic, because absolutely they are. I am just saying that, these conditions that psychiatrists call them, mental illness are not real. Bipolar is not real. It's usually adrenal fatigue, hypoglycemia. Again, there's always a physical underlying cause. So has anybody ever thought, 50 years ago we didn't have this problem. So what has changed to cause this problem? Well, what's changed is our environment and our food. It's genetically modified now. It has more toxins and nutrients. I mean, this is not what our body was designed to feed on in order to function. You need vitamins, you need minerals, you need essential fatty acids, you need enzymes, you need protein to make this protein machine we call our flesh and blood and bones work for you. And when it's not present, things start to go awry and things start to die. First the cell, then clusters of cells, then lesions of tissue, then the organ itself, and then the organism. So, and then of course vaccinations and medications. Actually, many of the psych drugs out there have they're extremely toxic, more toxic than street drugs actually, because of the way they're synthetically made and the effect it has on the body, as well as with the fact that they are in the system 24/7 when usually, your crackhead smoking crack in the crack house has to stop once in a while to go steal somebody's TV, but you get what I mean. They have to stop here and there and they clean out. But the psych drug users, they are using it 24/7 because they're told it's medicine and it's okay. Nobody would take a drug like that, or unless you were severely addicted, in really bad shape, would ever take a drug if they saw it for what it was, a drug. They would never do it like that. It's only because it's called medicine and it's given to you by a doctor that people think it's okay to do that. Processed food chemicals, thousands of those as well, excess caffeines and sugars. We are in a state of excess. People are constantly throughout the day medicating themselves. Many people who drink alcohol medicate themselves through the day with caffeine, which actually dumps sugar. They're after that sugar that dumps sugar into the blood system. They'll eat a lot of pastas throughout the day, have a Coke or 2 or 3, until they can get home and get to that beer. Then sedentary lifestyle. Today it is not a luxury to exercise. Today, if you do not exercise and try and detox in some form, whether it's in a sauna or exercise, if you don't detox daily, you are accumulating toxins, especially if you live in a conventional way and you're not green. You're accumulating toxins at a very, very, very risky rate. Of course, stress and traumatic events. When a person has either of those and it continues and it's chronic, a traumatic event, what they keep replaying it through their mind, and they usually go into the event damaged, with their neuroendocrine system damaged, and they can't, it's harder to pull out. It's harder to pull out of a traumatic event when your neuroendocrine system, you're already adrenal fatigue, so now the stress of the event and its impact on your life and all that takes its toll. You dive even deeper into the trauma, and it engulfs you. But it's your thoughts. It's actually the recurring. It's the replaying of the thoughts, and that actually continues the damage onto your neuroendocrine system, because it's true. The cerebellum, that processes fear and such. It does not know that a tiger is not chasing it. If you think a tiger is chasing you, or you're thinking of worrisome and depressing thoughts all the time, it doesn't have eyes. It believes you. So that when you read a threatening email from an ex or a current lover or something, and the way people are responding today because they're hyper reactive, cerebellum actually responds as if the tiger is chasing it, because that's what it's there for. So anyway, these are the causes of mental health symptoms and addictions today. 98% of the time, this is the cause. There are some genetic issues, but these are things that are recognized at birth, and especially not really addiction, but for the mental health, for the mental symptoms, various types of schizophrenia. But this is so severe; it is obvious at birth. People don't turn 18 and all of a sudden become schizophrenic. It's accumulation of toxins and the damage that it has done, or traumatic effects and the damage that it has done on the neuroendocrine system and brain. So all of these lead to mental and physical symptoms, which lead to addiction. Okay, now, and by the way, I'm going to be straight up about this, because I have alcohol people, I have psych drug users, I have illegal drug users on this seminar series. And I don't want the legal drug users thinking that they're any different than the illegal drug users, because underneath the hood, underneath the skin, a drug is a drug. Just because a doctor's giving it to you to mediate, terms that psychiatrists make up, literally make up, there's no empirical evidence whatsoever, just make up, that makes you no different in getting medicated and using a drug to cancel symptoms than the addict on the street getting his cocaine or his beer from the liquor store. It is all the same. It is self-medication. Just one's legal and the other one isn't. It is not healing. Neither party are being healed. And they're both mediating symptoms with very toxic drugs. So, going on to the next slide now, diseases and illnesses associated with the toxic exposure. I was just demonstrating. Now, all these, I don't have to read them all, because you're going to have this PowerPoint. You're going to have it on a CD coming at you when we're done with the series. You also can go to a link after this event and listen to this as many times as you like until you get your CD set. So you can take a good look at these, but the toxic world we live in is causing these neurological, the Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. People know that Alzheimer's came up and is strongly associated with aluminum and metal exposures. You get that from your deodorant, from the aluminum pans you may be cooking with. Go to a yard sale or a flea market and find some good old-fashioned iron pans if you can't afford to go to Kitchen Craft and get the titanium set. That'll keep you going and keep you a lot healthier than using aluminum pans. But anyway, schizophrenia, anxiety, panic attacks, addictive biochemistry, which I'm going to explain in more detail because it's important that everybody on this call understands that. Cancer, nutritional deficiencies, absolutely. Many people are actually demonstrating malnutrition psychosis today, and they're calling it, a mental health disorder, or because their bellies are full, they think they're eating, but they're actually empty. The calories that they're eating are empty. Your brain needs food and energy more than your belly needs to feel full, but people don't look at food that way. They don't eat food for its nutritional value unless they're healthy people, which wouldn't be symptomatic. So no, they don't make their food choices for their nutritional value. It's always for taste, and of course, addicted taste, salts and butters and fats and hamburgers and sweets and things like that. So it's not about the food, it's not about healthy, good food to actually provide nutrition to the body so that it can function well. So what happens is they start going, they start demonstrating malnutrition psychosis. The hormonal imbalances, there are so many endocrine disruptors out there in plastics and the lining in cans, when you buy a canned soup, et cetera, that's a BPA, that's bisphenol A. There's phthalates and things. These are endocrine disruptors. Even the hormones that your conventional cows and pork and pigs and whatnot are are given to fatten them up, they are actually endocrine disruptors, and they disrupt your endocrine system, your hormonal balance, as well as cause you to gain weight because those hormones are transferred in the meat. Enzyme dysfunction, people do not eat enough live food. They don't have any enzymes. They're not breaking down their food well. It's also putting a huge load on the pancreas that has to, make all the enzymes for everything. It causes digestive disorders, altered metabolism, reproductive disorders, GMOs. The list goes on, as you can see. Obesity, and an endocrine disruptor does cause obesity. And a lot of these psych drugs are absolutely endocrine disruptors, which put a lot of weight on people. Allergies, symptoms associated with multiple sclerosis. This, again, is where aspartame has been named. There's many cases where people were debilitated. They couldn't walk anywhere. Doctors were thinking they had multiple sclerosis. And, we found out later, the trend goes one way and then the other. Because we holistic doctors do get a chance once in a while to figure these things out in time. And we found that the damage that aspartame was doing to the nervous system, the neurological damage that aspartame was doing was so aggressive in these individuals, typically your big Diet Coke drinkers, that they were actually put in wheelchairs. They couldn't walk. We get the aspartame out, put them on a good brain food rich diet, rebuild the nervous system, and they're walking again. So, it's easy to figure out what the problem is there, right? Chronic viral infections, less ability to tolerate and handle stress. Of course, that's your adrenal fatigue. So the toxic exposure is really the culprit in a bigger part of our problem today with both mental and physical disease. And it's funny. I like to point this out. Doctors, the AMA journal stated a long time ago that 85% of disease could be attributed to lifestyle and diet. Actually, the British Journal of Medicine actually said not too long ago that they felt that 92% of disease was attributed to diet and lifestyle. Well, okay, great. Well, thank you. But when you get in trouble and you're symptomatic, why is it when you go to see your doctor, you're just given more toxicity, more toxins, some kind of pill usually, that's going to cause more toxins? More damage, more oxidative stress, or, like a thyroid medication for low thyroid, because people's thyroids are burning out because of the roller coaster ride that they're on, and throughout the day for so many years. So, which actually makes the organ atrophy, because when you do something for an organ, it stops doing it for itself, and then it just continues to get worse and worse. And of course, the underlying cause never is explored. And people never get well. They just take drugs until, the next problem arises, and then the next and the next. But anyway, so when they put this out in their journals, but you go to the doctor, why is it you don't get good, sound dietary advice? The doctor can't even talk to you about your diet. If you're diabetic, they have to send you to a dietitian. They are only to give you diabetic medication. There's a thing called standards of care. And they have to go by that or they lose their license. So, and of course, standards of care now are entirely driven and established by the pharmaceutical companies. So it's really, really not a good place to be. It's great that they tell the population that 85 to 92% of disease is attributed to diet and lifestyle. But it would be great if our healthcare system was built around that claim and addressed those issues with people that are symptomatic. Going on to the next. Now, I wanted to bring up addictive biochemistry because this is actually a term that I developed to explain a condition that leads to addiction in my first book, Alcoholism, the Cause and the Cure. Addictive biochemistry is a neuroendocrine system deficient in the natural neurotransmitters and hormones that you require to feel peaceful, centered, focused, joyful, typically all the good stuff, okay? Because that's our natural state when we're healthy. When we're healthy, we feel all the good things. We feel blessed. We feel spiritually connected. And when addictive biochemistry is any condition, and again, it is typically caused, and I'm talking 98% of the time, caused by multiple chemicals accumulating and damaging the nervous system and brain over the years. And what happens is you develop symptoms. You're edgy. You're overwhelmed. Some kids are hyper-emotional. They're very, very sensitive, okay? There's stress, and they're anxious. I've tested 5-year-olds for positive for adrenal fatigue, okay? So when your position within, which is your neuroendocrine system that produces the neurochemicals that your brain needs to function well, because your brain is just the reporting system, okay? The brain is only the reporting system. When that isn't functioning, your neuroendocrine system is deficient in the natural neurochemicals, you produce addictive biochemistry, meaning you are going to start reaching out to provide yourself something that is going to quell the symptoms, be it emotional, psychological, or physical. You are going to reach out. If your body can't take care of it internally, you are going to go to a psychiatrist, or you're going to go to the liquor store, or you're going to go to your drug dealer. You're going to go somewhere you are going to, because it's a natural phenomenon. It's actually part of the survival system to reduce pain, to try and stop pain, because pain is registered in the brain as impending death. It's overstimulated. It doesn't want to be that. It wants to be calm. So it's going to try and fix it whatever way it can. So, and that is to instruct you, and they call that a compulsive disorder, but really it's, you can't do it with internally. So that survival mechanism is the same mechanism that's trying to maintain homeostasis internally is going to cause you to try and do it externally and reach out for something. We're just not very good at it. So, and we end up, with addiction issues. So that is addictive biochemistry. It's a symptomatic condition that leads to reaching out for something external to quell or try and correct a neurochemical deficiency, such as sugar. This is why people in AA usually dive into the sugar bowl when they try and quit drinking, which actually ends up being their biggest nemesis. That and caffeine, top 2 causes for relapse. They dive into sugar bowl because sugar actually provides the same chemicals that alcohol does, just at lighter dosages. So it provides GABA, serotonin, and beta endorphins, the exact same neurochemicals that people drink alcohol for. And that's been demonstrated, by the way, by Mount Sinai School of Medicine. They tested young kids for their sweet tooth, and 10 years later took another look at them, round them up again, took another look at them, found that the ones that had a strong sweet tooth had a 2.5 times more propensity to become disposition to become alcohol addicted. So that's what addictive biochemistry is, and it's very important that you understand that. That is the key to the cure. See, how to cure yourself of illegal addiction is to find the root cause of the symptoms and stop the symptoms, because as soon as you stop the symptoms and you can feel good naturally, peaceful and calm naturally, believe me, especially after a person has experienced the hell of and desperation of addiction, they'll not want nothing to do with it, with the drugs of the past. When a person feels good and calm and peaceful inside, they are back in the driver's seat, and they can choose very easily not to do it, especially when they have gone through the hell and the torment of what that life and lifestyle creates. So the problem and the solution, how I developed the Green Mental Health Care medical model, it's very simple. Okay, I identified what makes people symptomatic, and I think I've expressed a number of times this evening, it is the toxic environment we live in. It damages our neuroendocrine system, and it causes symptoms. We develop addictive biochemistry, and we set out to try and fix it. And we're just not very good at it. Then I provide the evidence-based solutions that relieve and dismiss the symptoms. That's how you cure the situation and the condition that you're in right now. If you're symptomatic, one of those out there that's symptomatic and taking this course to learn how to get well and get off and be safe and good at and well, safe at it and well in the end. So it's very pragmatic. I'm a scientist first and a practitioner second. Medicine today is not based on science anymore. It's based on profit and sales. Medicine should be based on evidence. When you go to a doctor, when you think you got cancer, you go to a doctor, he doesn't look at you from 3 feet away across the room behind his desk and say, oh, you have cancer, here's a bunch of pills for cancer. Well, that's exactly what a psychiatrist does. And I don't even, as a biochemist, I don't even prescribe for anxiety without testing because I know 10 different biochemical pathways to anxiety at least, and some products that are out on the market, such as St. John's wort and tryptophan and SAMe, can actually aggravate any one of those. Okay, there's many different biochemical pathways. So anyway, the advantages of non-toxic, non-invasive, and non-addictive mental health care over psychiatric drugs and self-medication with food, illegal drugs, and alcohol. So this is going to be a no-brainer, huh? Psychiatric, illegal drugs, and alcohol cause brain, liver, and all other critical organ damage, causes addiction, and addiction leads to further damage from the toxic nature of the drugs, both legal and illegal, loss of quality of life, and early mortality. And that means that you die faster, which, by the time you've been on this stuff for 20, 30 years, that you may not care much about that, but believe me, the authentic you does care. The authentic you wants to live a full, vibrant, quality life. We only get one. I try and impress upon my patients how important it is. We get so caught up in our cycles and our mind speak, and especially if you're addicted to something, a negative mind speak and feeling like, you're stuck and in a corner. And, you have to remind yourself, you have to sometimes scare yourself out of it. You have to keep focus more stuff on the negative stuff about this one precious time around you get. And this goes to the Buddhists too, because even with 9 lives, none of us, or continued reincarnation for the rest of time, none of us get to remember the previous one, right? So even for all of you out there, regardless of your spiritual branding, for everyone out there, this is the one shot for this life, one precious life. You want to make every day a blessed one and wake up with health and vibrance and, the ability to live it in the full capacity that you were born to be able to live it in. Every day that goes by, trapped in the cycle of addiction and the pain and the desperation and the depression, anxiety, is a tragedy. Every single day that is lived that way. So you really need to step out of that, and if focusing on that helps you, scare yourself into just really making the sacrifices that you need to make. Then I'm going to teach you what those sacrifices are: the sugars, the caffeines, the aspartames, all this stuff. But you know what? That stuff, I don't care how good you think it tastes, because that goes away too. The cravings go away very quickly. But even if it tasted good to you forever, it's not worth the price that it costs you. Because it costs you time with your loved ones. It costs you those hugs. It costs you, your hobbies, the things you enjoy. It costs you your enjoyment of life. Life should not be a daily struggle and hell to wake up into. So anyway, green mental health causes. It heals the brain, liver, and all other critical organs. It cures addictive biochemistry. You do not live craving like people may tend to do because they don't fix the damaged neuroendocrine system. And believe me, after years of drug and alcohol use, it is damaged. It was likely damaged to begin with, and then it just gets more damaged by the drugs. But it does cure addictive biochemistry. There are no cravings, I know that many of you can't imagine living a life without cravings, but believe me, it does happen, and it happens in a very short period of time on this program, because I do not allow any shortcuts. It is a full program, comprehensive, and touches on addresses all aspects of your life, and you know why? Because addiction, impacts every aspect of your life. So every aspect of your life that's impacted by the addiction absolutely needs to be addressed to heal. And a lot of it happens all by itself. You don't really need to be mindful about it. Just like when you cut yourself, the wound heals. And you don't have to sit there and think about it, because, boy, we probably all bleed to death. Who knows how to knit their arm back together after cutting it with glass or something, right? So, but it's amazing how emotional content of people heals, the psychological content of people heals. Yes, we do have counselors on board for integral life practice to build the highest vision of yourself, and I'll discuss more of that. because it's really important for people to get their mind on the future and start developing that future, a place to put all that vibrant energy that they're going to have. Anyway, back to what green mental health causes. It improves quality of life beyond your wildest dreams. And I say beyond your wildest dreams because people have stopped dreaming. They just don't think they're capable of doing the things that they once wanted to do, whatever it is. This is just another toll that addiction causes one, because you truly are capable of anything. You just need to set up, you need to be clean, you need to be healthy, you need to be able to set up your support systems and nurture them toward that highest vision of yourself, and it can be done. And it causes longevity. You get to add years, not subtract them, okay? Okay, environmental medicine, how green mental health care awakens the natural healing process. And again, this is going to be quite simple. See, science really is quite simple. It's the sales science, all this, very, very high-level scientific speak. They try and, just make themselves sound so smart, but really, the simple things are the best. Well, the same as in medicine. True medicine is very, very simple. And I'll tell you how simple it is. There's a 3 million year relationship that humans, the body has developed with planet Earth. The cells need certain things from nature in order to function, and that is to repair and replicate. And the closer that you are to that relationship that's been developed over 3 million years, the more aligned you are with that relationship, the healthier you're going to be. The more you stray away and with toxicity and bad diets and all these things that you're not supposed to be putting in your body or on your body or breathing or doing, bad, lifestyle management, having bad people around you that stress you out all the time. All these things, no harmony in your life. All these things, the more you detract from that original relationship that was built over 3 million years, the more you detract from it, the more symptomatic you're going to be. That's just the plain and simple, and it's not negotiable at all. You cannot manipulate that relationship. Things change very, very slowly in nature. It's one of the reasons why we're so symptomatic today, actually, because the industrial revolution, industry, toxins, pollutants, playing with food, genetic modification, all this stuff. Our environment has changed more in the last 100 years than it has changed in the last 100,000 years. And that is not good, because our adaptation, the neuroendocrine system that needs to adapt to that horrible environment, toxic environment we're creating, it's burning out. It can't adapt that fast. It wasn't made to adapt that fast. So that's what we're getting. That's why people are burning out today. They're overstimulated. Food is overstimulating neural and excitotoxic endocrine disruptors. Their environment is changing so quickly. The body just can't keep up, and it wasn't meant to. So anyway, the green mental health model. Toxins are removed, and super dense nutrition, as well as targeted nutritional therapy, is provided. Again, toxins are removed, and super dense nutrition as well as targeted nutritional therapy is provided. Okay, we get the bad stuff out and put the good stuff in. And when you do that, the body begins to, because see, there's it costs the body a huge nutritional tax to metabolize and eliminate toxins. Okay, that includes your psych drugs, your alcohol, your street drugs, all of them, plus the food chemicals, plus the heavy metals. All of it, everything coming at you, the aspartame, this and that. So it costs the body a lot in nutritional sources and energy to metabolize these toxins and get them out. Because they are foreign to the body will use its energy source to do that. Get rid of the invader, So when all your nutrition and energy is spent doing that, just clean up, there's nothing left for repair and replication, okay? So when there's nothing left, there's no growth, there's no healing. Repair and replication is healing, okay, producing new cells, repairing tissues of the liver, repairing neural net of the brain, and the brain does renew itself. So for all the bad news out there, people, there's equal good news. The body does repair and replicate. Every organ in your body repairs and replicates given the right environment, okay? So in the super dense nutrition, yes, we do have to. Vitamins are necessary today. Even for those of us that eat organic or non-toxic, a very simple program, the maintenance program that I do myself every day, because we do live in a toxic world. So we have to answer that with with some antioxidants and good food-based, organic, multi-mineral and multivitamin from cod liver oil. It's really, really good for today's world, and with the vitamin D in it. And you're good to go. I mean, that's once you're healthy. That's a maintenance program. Of course, targeted nutritional therapy for those deficiencies I talked about early in the neuroendocrine system, such as if you're in a state of adrenal fatigue. Well, we have evidence-based medical medicines, holistic medicines and adjuvant therapies that we know bring back the adrenals. So the targeted nutritional therapy is excellent, but also the food needs to be super, because and when you're in a healing crisis, every single bite is your medicine, your lifeline, your mood, everything relies on it. So anyway, this strategy dramatically reduces oxidative stress so the body can use its nutritional and energy stores to repair and replicate. That's the end game right there. You're either dying more every day because cells are dying more than they're being replicated in your body, or you're replicating and repairing more. Now, of course, we all got to die one day, but you want to slow that process down in order to maintain your health and to keep that, those nutritional stores and energy going toward repair and replication, not metabolizing toxins and oxidative stress. Okay, hoping everybody gets this. And be sure, as we go, just type in your questions so that Rachel can, the program coordinator can ask them of me at the end. So, because I do, one of the beautiful things about doing a teleseminar such as this is that I get to do that, get to answer specific questions from the participants. This strategy produces actual healing versus masking the symptoms at a very, very high cost, which is loss of quality of life and early mortality. Again, I know that many of you are in a very compromised state right now, but you have reached out for help. You've paid to be on the seminar. So you do want your life back. That's obvious. You want to reclaim your life. You want to reclaim your mind. You want a quality life again, so it does matter. But if you ever thought it didn't matter, believe me, that is not the authentic you thinking then. It's not the authentic you talking. It's not the authentic voice in your head. That is the chemical depression from the drugs. The authentic you wants this life. It wants it bad. That's why you're on this program. So, you're going to learn everything you need to know, and so that you can move forward with confidence. And if you can't afford me, I'm going to show you, or if you just want to work with somebody else, that's fine. But I am going to show you how to manage your doctor. So because, I love working with doctors or teaching people how to work with their doctors because, they heal, it turns the doctor around because the doctors are taught by the pharmaceutical industry and all their publications and TV and everything and the AMA and the insurance companies that if this stuff doesn't work, then I hope you all see how ridiculous that is, that people have, come to think in this day and age that they are so on top of the science game. We get sicker and sicker and sicker every year as a human race, but they think they're so darn smart and that they can control and manipulate nature and that their science is better than nature. And it's not. It's absolutely not. It's that attitude, that audacity is exactly what's gotten us into the problem that we're in right now with the epidemic mental and physical health diseases. In fact, we all know cancer, all the billions of dollars is poured into cancer research every year. Where's the cure? Well, you know what? The cure is in the prevention. And there's never going to be one cure for cancer because there's so many things. Cancer is actually caused fundamentally by oxidative stress. Why do people smoke or drink and do psych drugs? Or why are they more prone to cancer and other diseases? Well, because all disease actually starts with oxidative stress, the death of the cell, and then the lesions, and then the tissues, and then the organ. So, anyway, moving on here. Studies evaluating the performance of two government-funded alternative clinics providing green mental health treatment reported far better patient outcomes at a fraction of the cost compared to conventional treatment. I love sharing this because, I actually do a lot of speaking to professionals, and I get more and more every year, more and more beautiful, truly ethically driven doctors, and there are a lot out there. It's just their hands are tied. Doctors aren't always the bad guys. A lot of times patients just want their drugs and want to go. They don't have time to be healthy. They wouldn't listen to the doctor if he or she was telling them the truth. I love having these actual government funded. Because, government-funded things have to perform. They have to perform well, and they have to save money and get the results intended. Otherwise, you lose your grants every year, right? So, anyway, the three here, there's two that were actual clinics, that are actual clinics. One is the Alternative Clinic in Kent, Washington. It's been open for over 15 years now. It was publicly government-funded. It has performed so well early on, in the first 3 to 5 years, I believe, that providing alternative mental and physical health, and it performed so well that the allopathic hospital, the hospital in the county, actually started converting its practices over to that of the alternative clinic. And so they are, rated as a huge success. Okay, and again, this is a government-funded facility. This is a public government-funded facility. If it wasn't performing, believe me, it would be shut down in a minute. And also the one I really like sharing is the Sacramento Drug Court here in California, our capital. Years ago, about 15 years ago or so, they put together a treatment program for first-time drug offenders, so long as there was no guns involved. No violent crimes. It was just a DUI or a drug bust or something like that. You qualified for drug court, and if you went through the 1 year treatment and did everything you were asked to do in that year, you would actually get the charges dropped. Well, the treatment actually consisted of, instead of AA meetings, which you have a high recidivism rate, and that means that the return, repeat offenders, right? AA doesn't produce very good results, and I think anybody knows my medical models and my voice in this area knows that. I have to be honest, I'm a scientist. You can call them yourself headquarters. They have a 3% success rate at death. And many of those people have been sober 5 or more years are very symptomatic. They come to me, asking for help. They're on psych drugs and this and that. So I actually redefined the definition of success. When I learned that AA, all they wanted it was to be dry. No matter if you were miserable, all they wanted was you to be dry, and they consider that a success. I don't consider that a success, because people don't stop drinking because they want to stop drinking. They stop drinking because they want their life back. And I don't consider it a success unless they get their life back. I don't consider it an extremely symptomatic person that just so happens to have enough willpower that absorbs their energy and takes away from so many other areas of their life. Absorbs all the willpower. I don't consider that success. I consider a healthy, vibrant person, enthusiastic about life, and living in the full capacity, a vibrant person living in the full capacity with excellent health. I consider that success. So anyway, the Sacramento Drug Court, and I love, I actually went to the site, and when I was researching this, and these cops and stuff, usually you look at pictures of cops in these programs and all the facilitators of these programs, and they look as bad as the people they're treating. They all look all torn up and like they just barely got a night's sleep, possibly. I don't know. These people, these cops look so, and health officials for the city, they look so vibrant and happy and clear-eyed and sparkly. But anyway, the program has acupuncture, nutrition classes, Tai Chi, meditation courses, exercise classes, nutrition classes. They also provide supplements. And they have found a dramatic, and I mean dramatic, drop over 10 years in recidivism rates, okay? So that means that the repeat offenders weren't coming back like they were in the old program, not even near as much. That's a huge success. So, my next question is, well, why isn't everybody doing that? I don't get that. Why, if that's such a huge success, why can't we all do that in all of our counties, all over the country, all over the world? All right, if it's so obvious. And also, it's at a fraction of the cost. They said If the Sacramento Drug Court, it was 1/10 of the cost for the conventional programs to pay psychiatrists for drugs and all the AA programs that they had to support and this and that and then of course considering the recidivism rate, so you got repeat offenders, you're not getting people out of the system, they're just cycling through the revolving door. So there's another huge success for green mental health care practices. Because addiction is a mental health issue, but not in the way of, it's not a disease like psychiatrists say. Because when people are symptomatic mentally, they have anxiety, depression, whatever, they will reach out for things and create addictions. In that capacity, yes, it's a mental health issue, but absolutely not as a disease like it's presented by psychiatrists. Absolutely not. Again, remember, psychiatrists go to a convention and raise their hand and vote on things. They have to call them diseases. They have absolutely no empirical evidence whatsoever. It's all subjective, little questions, this and that, what they think, what they don't think. And mind you, it's a huge money-making business. So what do you think they really think? Why do you think these things are really being voted in? But they have absolutely zero empirical evidence. When you go to an oncologist, he does x-rays, he takes tests, takes chemistry tests, does all that stuff. Comes up, yes, you have cancer, or no, you don't. Okay, yes, you do. You have this kind of cancer. You're going to get this kind of treatment. All right? They're not asked for some reason I'll never know. They're not asked to provide empirical evidence before even sometimes forcing people into treatment, like such as, the vulnerable children that we're losing to that system. And also, I wanted to mention the Mutual of Omaha. They, big insurance company, they did a 10-year study, and they actually showed that they saved $6.50 spent on to the dollar spent on holistic medicine by providing holistic medicine, and that they actually, of course, they got people. Not only did they save by providing the holistic care that people were wanting, they actually got people out of the system because people actually healed. That's a curative model. The allopathic model today is typically not, especially in psychiatry, it's not a curative model, it's a treatment for life model. They want you right in between. In fact, they have a saying. The first tragedy is to kill someone, the second one is to cure someone. They don't make any money off those two populations, the cure or the death. So they try and keep you, it's a treatment for life model, but it just so happens those treatments are slowly killing you and cause you to die early. So, and they reduce your quality of life. So it's not really the ideal treatment. If you can make the sacrifices, which I hope each and every one of you are going to make, after you learn what it is you need to do to get well, if you're willing to make sacrifices, you do not have to sacrifice time on this planet and your quality of life. Okay, next slide. So why do people become symptomatic when they try on their own to get off drugs and alcohol? Well, that's easy. What this program does to avoid as much transitional discomfort as possible, it's really easy. We build a healthy body for you to land into, okay? If you don't know how to do that, and that's not part of your game plan, what happens is, okay, well, you drop into a body that's suffering the original health issue that was never exposed or treated, okay? It's bad diet, it's over caffeine, sugar, alcohol, whatever it is. Toxic exposure could have been heavy metals, it could have been thimerosal in your vaccines, it could be your amalgams in your mouth, it could be the chromium-6 in your water, it could be a number of things, or accumulation of all these things that caused you to be symptomatic in the first place. And if it's not ever exposed what was causing, guess what? While you're on your drugs or alcohol, typically it's drugs for those people, while you're on your drugs and masking the symptoms, you're not going to be encouraged, and people don't ever find what the original cause was. So it's obviously going to continue to be present in their life, continuing the damage, but you don't know. You don't have a clue because you're not symptomatic for a while until the drugs take their effects, and then you get more symptoms. And then the damage from neurotoxic psych drugs, they are very toxic, cause lots of oxidative stress, many associated with many diseases, including diabetes, cancer. You have that. You have damage from the drugs and alcohol and continued exposures that created the original health issues still going on in your life, because, again, this kind of relates to the first item. It was never exposed what the real problem was, the root cause, the root issue, and then the cause of that root problem. And then, of course, you've got the withdrawal coming off the drugs. So if you don't know how to avoid, how to heal the body and get rid of everything that could possibly be preventing or aggravating that condition, you have to, before you step in, before you decide to start tapering or quitting, you really have to start cleaning up your environment. You have to change your diet. You have to do all these things. And I'm going to give you the time factor, too, because it's important that you know how to do this in the right way, because if you don't, you can actually get addicted to more drugs. I'll explain that later, more enhanced effect, because when you're detoxifying, if you stay on a high level of drugs that you're on, it's like drinking alcohol on an empty stomach. You get a more enhanced effect. And then if you don't taper in time, you're going to get addicted to that more enhanced effect. So that's why this is a science, people. That's why, we need to take this a step at a time to do it right. I'm sorry, I forgot at the top of this, I do have to mention, I am not licensed. I am not an MD. I am not licensed. I am licensed by the American Naturopathic Board of Medicine. I am not licensed as an MD, so I'm not licensed for controlled substances. You do absolutely, and you should, be, seeing and have your program once you, decide to start. Have your program overseen by a medical doctor, okay? Of course, you want to find a person, and it's not typically going to be the person that put you on the drugs. You never know which side of the coin you're going to get from them. But find somebody you really enjoy working with that will simply monitor you for your health, because all they're going to see is good improvements, okay? Very quick ones, too. So they just need to monitor you on the program, and just make sure that you're staying healthy. But of course you will be. You'll be getting healthier every day. You're putting the good stuff in and taking all the bad stuff out. But anyway, this is why people become more symptomatic when they try to quit on their own. Okay, everybody gets so scared for good reason, but it's because they're not doing it right. Your body is extremely unhealthy. You've been taking drugs for so long to mask the symptoms. You have no idea what's going on under there, and then you start trying to get off, and you've got all this damage to fall into. Well, nobody wants to do that. So, we need to, focus first on building a healthy body. That's why, I'm going to wait till the later part of the series to start doing the step-by-step stuff, because I want you to start making these changes right away. So by the time we get to that part, wow, it's going to be smooth sailing, okay? The Green Mental Health Model creates a healthy body and mind to drop into, minimizes withdrawal symptoms due to low time and effect of targeted nutritional therapy, and I'll explain that. See, the way this program works, and one of the beautiful aspects of this program, makes my program so unique, is that I built targeted nutritional therapies to address, mimic the different types of classifications of drugs there are. The legal and illegal are twins, Ritalin is actually cocaine. It's one molecule, and one insignificant one away from cocaine. And, a doctor from the AMA actually wrote a very, very, very long paper on this that was published in the journal, the JAMA, Journal of American Medical Association. Okay, the doctors know this. In fact, I have a friend that worked at Stanford in the neurology department, and neurologists and brain surgeons, they entirely disallowed their families. It was a known fact that internally they entirely disallowed their families, their children, husbands, wives, to use aspartame, because they knew exactly what it does to brain tissue. And why don't they get to write their papers without getting reprimanded and getting fired? All these other, psychologists and psychiatrists at these places can write papers pro-drugs, but and because of course, the pharmaceutical companies are funding these Ivy League schools. So I don't get that one. But anyway, so what happens, one of the beautiful, elegant parts of this medical model is that the supplements will start doing their magic within about 5 to 7 days. You'll start feeling the effects neurochemically, where they're starting to help the body build and create the good neurochemicals that the brain needs to function well. The targeted nutritional therapy also assists detoxification, etc. But your detoxification diet, so you're detoxing. So the withdrawal symptoms are minimized because the targeted nutritional therapies are actually helping the brain get what it's been starving for to make its own neurochemicals, right? And also, you're going to get a more enhanced effect from your drug because you're detoxing. So really within the first week, I'm usually able, and this is over 95% of the time, I'm able to cut all medications 50% without the person even noticing, because of the enhanced effect that you get from the same dosage when you're on a detoxification diet. And I'll be very, very attentive about explaining that more later on in the series. And much easier to take a person is detoxifying due to the enhanced effect of the drug. And then I just explained that. Not only detoxifies, but provides a healing event that is centered on orthomolecular neurochemical rehabilitation, meaning creating a very healthy environment for the cells to thrive, and then they balance. So they really actually do the intelligence of balancing themselves on their own. So the Green Mental Health Care Advantage. Take a look at Matthew, one of our favorite people. He was at the clinic in Costa Rica. He came in with a paranoid schizophrenic diagnosis, and actually 17 years between hospitals and hostels. And you can see, in fact, I'll show you a close-up here, you can see just the phenomenal progress that he made. He actually left a success. We found the actual root cause of the paranoia that he was experiencing. Of course, we cleaned up all the damage that the psych drugs had done in the 2 months that he was with us. And he left with just a very, very little bit, maybe 5% of that paranoia feeling, but it was entirely manageable with the techniques that he'd been taught, such as magnesium baths and such, to calm him down. So whenever he just felt a little bit of tinge of it coming on, he would hop in a magnesium bath and relax, and he could entirely manage it. And of course, he continued, left to, on an outpatient program to continue to heal. But this guy, 17 years, 6+ drugs he came in on, was entirely tore up. You can see, look at that. Hold on a second. I need to get back to my slides. I lost my slides here. And you can look at his skin tone, look at the bloated out of his face. He wasn't really a big drinker. This was all psych drugs. He came in smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day, and on his own, we only allow organic cigarettes, which cuts addiction to 500 chemicals out. But he came into my office saying, I want to quit smoking, and he had 3 packs to 3 cigarettes a day, and he went in and out of it. But the cool thing was that he was actually so healed that he was actually getting to his chosen favorite drug, and was really wanting to even get rid of that. And this is a guy, again, that was diagnosed paranoid schizophrenic, and we loved working with him. You can see how much, look at his skin tone, everything is healing. When the skin's looking that good, you can know that the liver's doing much, much better. There's Ross McKenzie. He reclaimed his life after 16 years of prescription lithium poisoning on February 8th last year. The most common cause of disease, continuance, and loss of life. The number one biggest cause for failure in a healing event is the person thinks they can continue doing what they have always done and get well. That's why psych drugs are so popular, because people don't have to make one change. They just take the drug and, they think it's doing its magic when really it's just damaging them under the hood. They don't know it because they're not symptomatic due to the drug. People will not take the root cause serious enough. They misunderstand masking symptoms as wellness. Non-compliance with a full picture. You cannot go halfway. Health today, especially if you're symptomatic, it has to be an entire, comprehensive system. You have to make all the changes. They believe organic green lifestyles are more expensive and continue their disease trend over spending money and or making the sacrifices to afford health. And by the way, organic lifestyles are not. I am going to disprove that assumption in another series, but they do not. And I'll say it again, are not actually more expensive, and I'll demonstrate that and teach everybody how to practice that. I love this one. If you believe you can, or if you believe you can't, you are right. And that comes from Henry Ford. And this has been a Green Mental Health Care presentation. We're aligned with nature and supported by science. I am going to try and answer some questions. I believe Rachel is on still. And Rachel, if you're there, you can go ahead and take control to get the questions answered. By the way, the next seminar will be this Thursday at 6 p.m. PDT, and it's going to be the causes of today's epidemic: adverse mental health symptoms. Okay, so I'm going to try and get over to the questions, and I'll see we'll see how good I'm at this. In any case, Rachel should be popping in to get the questions if I can't figure it out here. So everybody hold on just a second, okay?
Hi, Genita. Can you hear me?
Hey, Rachel. Hi. How are you?
Hi. I'm fine.
Great.
That was great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So, yes, we do have a few questions here.
Okay.
The first question is from Blair in New Zealand. And Blair says, after I do... Sorry, let me get that recording off. Okay, after I do any kind of workout or exercise, my body doesn't recover well. In fact, my body grinds to a halt, and by the time it's ready to go again, it could be 3 weeks. So I'm back to square one. Why?
Mm-hmm. Well, Blair, that, and to everyone here, because I bet a lot of people are experiencing that, it goes back to building a healthy body to drop into, especially if you're detoxing from drugs. And I have spoken with Blair before, but I'm not quite sure. I can't remember which it is that what's going on with him, which is good anyway. I wouldn't want to mention it online anyway. But anyway, what happens if you're not building and, using the right things and cleaning out the toxicity, and using the assistance of the right nutritional supplements, et cetera, and getting rid of the toxicities in your life and the exposures and whatnot, you could be overloading the body when you're working out. The toxins are leaving too fast, or they're getting blocked because one of those organs, such as the liver, isn't working very well, and it's just really, really wreaking havoc on the system, oxidative, stress on the system. It could be adrenal fatigue. It could be many things. So instead of just trying to figure out what one possible thing could be, the better thing to do is just, like I said, you clean up all the sources. Otherwise, you're going to spend thousands of dollars in tests. So it's always better just to, why not, clean them all up, because I address every possible source of toxicity and stop the oxidative stress in your environment and in your diet. And that's going to get the healing, the growth mode going, the healing going, and you'll be able to do your workouts again without falling over for a couple weeks.
Okay, great. And the next question is from Joseph in Mississippi, and he says, I didn't start drinking until my marriage went south. Does my stress cause me to drink, or did my drinking cause my marriage problems? Maybe this is a better question for a counselor.
Well, it's both could be true, and usually it's a little bit of everything going on. The alcohol causes an induced chemical depression. It creates more adrenal fatigue. You'll start to handle your stresses, less, in a less and less healthy way. Never good for a marriage. And so, it's always a little bit, the drinking, could have caused it, but there's a lot of people I know, they were drinkers, and they finally, at the urging of their loved one, they do my program, they get well, and they realize, they're the ones that leave and get divorced because they realize that they were drinking to tolerate a marriage. So, really, instead of knowing what the problem was, the best thing to do is do, what you need to do to get healthy today, and then your life will start out-picturing that health. That's a natural phenomenon. When you are healthy in body, mind, and spirit, you will start out-picturing health, and you'll choose healthy relationships. You'll have magical. It's truly, amazing what I see my patients go through when they start choosing health. Jobs go better, better incomes. It's just, things just start to flow well for them because, they're not waking up overwhelmed or in a depression. And because, depressed thoughts cause depression. They cause, your environment, the way you come across to other people is harmed by your own depression because of that. Depression begets depression. What you put out to the world, is the way the world will respond to you. So Joseph, the better thing to do is focus on the future right now. It says, did my drinking, cause the failure of my marriage? Well, if you ask the question, maybe that's part of it. I'm sure it's not the whole thing, but it never is the whole thing. But, I think the better approach would be about how to best create tomorrow, okay? We can't change the past, but we can certainly change today and tomorrow and do better every single day and get healthy. And because whatever can be, the lessons learned could be your biggest blessing, you know? So, okay, next.
Okay, so this next question, I think you pretty much answered this during tonight's talk, but I want to honor everyone's questions here. Denise in Santa Monica says, can a sober alcoholic become well if addicted to caffeine and sugar?
Well, it's been established by my research and others that I've communicated with that the number one cause of relapse in AA is alcohol and is caffeine and sugar. Because they cause symptoms. You know, caffeine overstimulates people, so what are they going to want to reach out for one day to calm down? It overstimulates people, it damages the nervous system, it damages the brain, and sugar and alcohol are interchangeable addictions. So that's why people in AA dive into the sugar bowl. That's exactly why they dive into the sugar bowl, because sugar actually provides the same, produces the same neurochemicals that people known to have a predisposition for alcohol addiction are reaching for, and that is GABA, serotonin, and beta endorphins / enkephalins. So it would be that's why people actually in AA white knuckle it as well, because those low blood sugar episodes, you know, that's where they're really craving. That's why they continue to crave alcohol 5 years later. You know, that's their old buddy. You know, whenever you build a go-to sort of relationship like that with any substance, it's always gonna, when you're stressed and when you're symptomatic, that's what you're gonna want to go to, and that's why they relapse the way they do. You know, so AA only has a 3% success rate, and I don't even consider their idea of success. So great for that 3 or less percent, but there's 97% of people out there that that need the help that everybody should be getting. So we should have better systems of communication or advertising for alcohol programs in the courts and such, not sending everybody to AA, which is a 97% chance of producing failure. But get off that sugar and caffeine. You absolutely should, because you will feel 100% better, and the better you feel, the less likely you'll ever be to relapse.
Okay, good. All right. And so one more question from Denise, and looks like this is our last question. She says, lithium ruined my thyroid function. Is there a way to repair it and not take any hypothyroid medication?
Absolutely. Every organ, like I said earlier, every single organ in the body will repair and replicate under the right conditions. Get on a holistic thyroid program, not take medication. It actually causes atrophy of the organ itself, and it will slowly stop working entirely. So absolutely. But you know what? That thyroid isn't going to get well until you get off the sugar and caffeine. I'll tell you that right now. You're burning your thyroid out. So the first thing you do is you look up that Food for Humans ebook. And start, correct your diet, get all the sugar, get all the caffeine, aspartame, everything else we're going to be going through in this seminar. Get all the toxic exposures out that are taxing your thyroid, because it drives your metabolism. Your metabolism is skewed and constantly changing depending upon what toxins going in, endocrine disruptors and neurotoxic and excitotoxins. So right there's a clue. Get rid of that caffeine and sugar, and you'll be doing your thyroid a big service. All
right, great.
Okay.
Well, and that Food for Humans book is part of the thank you page that everyone received a link for. So if you go to that thank you page and you scroll down to your bonus gifts, it's right in there with the bonus gift. So you can go ahead and download that instantly and start following that. And this was a great, fabulous kickoff for the first of, the next 6 weeks. That's all.
Yeah, I really had a good time. I really liked to lecture in person, so I really didn't know how I was going to go. But, I have 12 of these to do, 11 more now, and I was, it's really, I like to be in person. I love to see the look on people's faces, ahas, the intensity, I don't know. I like living in the 3D world. But I really enjoyed myself this evening. I'm really looking forward to dispensing the rest of this series for everyone and getting it on CD and getting it out to you, because this information is critical to your success. And also there's so much information to be provided that it's really good to have the ability to review it, so you can go over and over it and really get it in there and retrain the brain and the way you're thinking, and also to absorb all the very, very important information that you'll need to truly do it right this time, to truly reclaim your life and live in the capacity that you were born capable of living it. So I want to thank everybody. I'm going to say good night, and Rachel, you can close out, and I'll be talking to everybody Thursday night. Okay, everybody, take care.